Raccoon City, September 25th, 1998. This place is hell. To explain it, I have to go back some months. In late May 98, grisly murder cases started occurring in the outskirts of Raccoon City, in the Arklay Mountain region. The Raccoon Police Precinct, RPD, began investigating, but came up with nothing. Many campers, hikers, and families living near the Arklay forest had vanished, and some had turned up dead. Not only that, but partially devoured. City officials theorized that it was either wild animal attacks, or worse, cultists that had taken up residence in the woods. After pressure from Raccoon citizens, the RPD finally sent in Special Tactics and Rescue Service, STARS, to investigate after the police and sheriff investigation came up short. This was in July. A short while later, officers Chris Redfield, Jill Valentine, Barry Burton, Rebecca Chambers, and pilot Brad Vickers returned to the city. 7 officers were reported killed in action. The survivors claimed that Umbrella Corporation, a well-renowned company that employed nearly 30% of Raccoon City's population and heavily invested in the town, was behind it all. They claimed Umbrella conducted illegal biohazard research and experimentations in a mansion located in the forest. City officials and Police Chief Brian Irons made a statement saying the survivor officers were under mental duress. And then they disbanded STARS, citing their poor handling of the investigation. Soon after, the RPD introduced a SWAT team to replace them. The surviving STARS members vanished shortly after. Then, within weeks, occurrences began. This time, in Raccoon City, not outside of it. People began attacking their fellow man openly in the streets. The police reassured us that this was in no way connected to the cannibal murders from earlier. It occurred to me then that the STARS survivors were indeed telling the truth, but for some reason, the RPD stonewalled them. After what they called a riot broke loose during a Raccoon Sharks game at the Warren Stadium, mass panic ensued. People were told by officials to go to their homes, lock their doors, and stay there, awaiting further instruction. Some people loaded up their cars, trying to leave. The highway out was quickly congested and nobody could get anywhere. Then the hospital was reportedly above capacity fast. More and more patients with bite wounds and strange cases of fever were admitted. Soon the news reported that the hospital was on lockdown. Nobody in, nobody out. After that, it was a blur. The rain started pouring and poured for days. Panic was everywhere. Suddenly, the sound of guns in the distance began happening. The police broadcast ran on repeat. Stay indoors. Do not attempt to help anyone showing signs of infection. Help will come. Stay indoors. On September 24th, the city was officially put under martial law. I was living in a block on Flower Street, close to Ennerdale Street. My entire apartment complex seemed secure enough, what with a closed buzz-in gate and hefty front doors. So, I stayed put. For almost 2 days, I kept my door locked and barricaded by my couch. I barely slept. I thought nobody would get into the complex, at least not one of those things. Imagine my surprise when I found out that they were already inside with us. It began as strange noises from my neighbor apartment, like sluggish, slow movement, knocking things over and shambling drunkenly. That made me worry greatly. A knot formed in the pit of my stomach. What if those things were already inside? What if we're all already infected, and it's just a matter of time? Soon the sound of gunshots could be heard somewhere in the streets of the city. I went to the window, trying to get a look. The darkness seemed absolute. Rain pounded my little apartment window, and streetlights flickered, making visibility less than bad. I've got to get the hell out of this place, I thought. I looked around. What chance have I got? The city must be crawling with those damn things. I needed a weapon, and a good one. But I had none. Not even a baseball bat. A scream from somewhere inside the apartment building shocked me back to it. Fuck this. I mumbled, making my way to the front door, grabbing my jacket as I peered through the peephole. Nothing to see in the hallway immediately. Maybe I could rush downstairs or jump a window over the gate. I needed to be quick, but also stealthy. My immediate plan was to make my way north by the city outskirts and get on the Stoneville Road and hightail it up to Stoneville. The danger with my plan was the forest to my left. Who knew what stalked the forest line waiting for prey? I had to keep my wits about me, and I sure as fuck needed a weapon. I pulled on my leather jacket and eased the apartment door open, careful not to let the hinges groan. The hallway beyond was dim, lit only by the weak emergency lights bolted near the ceiling. Water dripped somewhere in the building. The smell hit me immediately. Rot, not strong, faint, but there. From the apartment to my left came muffled struggling, furniture scraping, heavy, sluggish movement. Then a wet choking sound. I froze. The stairwell door stood to my right, maybe 15 feet away. If I moved now, quietly, I could make it downstairs before whatever was inside that apartment noticed me. Another thud slammed against the neighboring door, hard enough to shake the frame. I flinched. "Hello?" I whispered, hating myself for it immediately. "You need help in there?" For a second, everything stopped. No movement, no noise. Then came a low groan from the other side of the door. Not human, not anymore. Something heavy crashed against it again. Shit. Fuck no. I backed away and hurried toward the stairwell, every step feeling too loud. My hand slipped slightly on the metal push bar as I eased the door open. The stairwell was dark, almost pitch black. Somewhere below me, I heard slow footsteps dragging across concrete. And somewhere above, a woman screamed. This was too much. I heard the faint sound of struggle, and by instinct alone, I moved down the stairwell, pulse in my ears, heart slamming harder than ever against my ribs. I'm going to die. I'm gonna fucking die here. My legs were jelly, barely holding me up, as I traversed step by step down into the darkness. At the bottom, a single light above the exit door flickered. I made it! But would I make it past this point? Stay indoors! The police broadcast kept repeating in the distance. The sound of rain against the door was immediate. I don't know if it was a second, a minute, or 10 minutes before I willed my hand to open the outer door. I peered into the rainy darkness. The streetlights were on, most of them. Some flickered. The sound of distant gunshots could still be heard. And another sound. A uniform, lonely, but dead sound. The moan of many people. A low but unmistakable sound. Wails. That scared me even more. I quietly snuck out into the rain. Faint sounds of screams and shooting could be heard. I looked around. A makeshift barricade to the east. The tower of the Raccoon City police precinct could be gleaned between some buildings. Should I run towards the station? Could there be people inside, holed up, safe? For a split second I wanted to, but a sudden dread shook that away from me. No, with my instinct screaming at me to run in the opposite direction, I did just so. I opened the apartment complex gate and walked slowly into the street. I turned to my right and followed the street due west. The street seemed relatively clear, with no immediate threats to see. Neither was it barricaded like the eastern path. I looked around at my surroundings. Dark alleys, unlit apartments, here and there a window was lit, but I dared not try to knock on anyone's door. Most of them looked barricaded too, anyways. I snuck on as quietly as I could. I needed a weapon. Further down the street, a pair of police patrol cars stood parked on the sidewalk. Okay, maybe there's an officer or two here. Maybe they can help. We can get the fuck out of here. I sped up slightly, aware of the sound my feet against the wet asphalt was making. I couldn't see anyone near the cars. They seemed abandoned. Light was on in them, and one door stood ajar. Shit, are you kidding me? I couldn't see anyone. I looked at the nearby buildings. One front door was open, but the hallway inside was dark. No fucking way I'm going in there. So I snuck quietly up to the nearest car, and peered inside as I bent low. I was looking in from the passenger side, front door. Nothing, not a shotgun, not a pistol, no keys in the ignition, nothing. Shit. Fuck! Desperation. I needed some kind of weapon to protect myself. Fuck, I guess I am going in there? I snuck slowly towards the open door in the building. Inside it was dark. Took my eyes a minute to adjust as I hugged the wall, scared shitless. I couldn't hear shit, not a single sound. It was another apartment complex. I inched forward as my eyes adjusted to the grim dark. A hallway, a stairway to the left, leading up into vast dark. The hall continued forward. A door seemed to be ajar further down the hall. I snuck slowly forward, each step a battle. As I neared the door, I could barely make out the sound of movement from inside the apartment. The door was wide open, and a light source seemed to emanate from within. I hardly dared to breathe as I slowly peered inside. 2 bodies were slumped on the floor, a pool of blood around them. A flashlight was near one of the bodies, illuminating the left side of the apartment. A few meters away, further inside the apartment, there stood a shadow, a dark silhouette, almost still. It lumbered, swaying slightly, but stood still, facing away from me. The fear was paralyzing. The stench was overwhelming. I fought hard to rip my gaze off the silhouette, to check on the 2 bodies. Police officers both. I couldn't see the extent of the damage, but they were clearly dead. I noticed one had a pistol in his hand. The other had a pistol holstered on his belt. Shit, I need that pistol. I inched slowly forward, keeping my eyes on the figure in the dark. Still no reaction. It clearly hadn't heard me. I bent low, snuck as quietly as I could forward. The police officers lay a mere 2 meters away from me, and it seemed a vast distance, an ocean between us. As I neared, the figure gently swayed. I stopped and held my breath. For what seemed like an eternity, I kept still. The figure didn't turn around. I was prepared to scrap my plan and turn on a dime to run. But it didn't turn around. I was less than a meter away from the pistol in the officer's hand now. Still holding my breath, I inched forward, almost on all fours now, reaching for the pistol. Almost got it. I exhaled slowly as my fingers gripped the barrel of the pistol. I tried to slowly yank it free without a sound, still keeping my eyes on the figure. It moaned, and I froze. The fear was almost taking over me. I was about to cry loudly out and just surrender to my fate. Then, the pistol came out of the officer's hand without a sound, and I had it firmly in my grip. The figure kept swaying gently, never turning, never heard me. I slowly crept back toward the door. I couldn't risk searching for any ammo, not with that thing there. I was up on my feet and out the door slowly, checking behind me as often as I dared, but always keeping a weather eye on the figure in the dark. Another moan came from within, and I was out in the hallway. I could see the rainy, dimly lit streets outside in the rain. Freedom. I moved with a purpose. As I got outside the apartments, I closed the front door. There seemed to be no life within, not anymore. I checked the pistol. It was a Sig Sauer P226. I slid the magazine out and saw it was full. The officer hadn't even fired a single shot. Well, I had a pistol, and at least 15 bullets if I knew my pistols correctly. Now, I needed to get the fuck out of Dodge. I crept up to the other police car and peeked inside the open door. The glove compartment was open, and a red little box was inside it. Tony's Arms, it read. Score. I leant inside the driver's seat and reached into the glove compartment. I pulled the box out and opened it as I sat low in the seat. Shit, it's been almost emptied. I counted only 7 spare bullets in the box. I took them all and stuffed them in my jacket pocket. As I was getting out of the car, the low rumbling sound of helicopters in the distance could be heard. Could it be? Could it be a rescue from this hellhole? I almost cheered loudly before I remembered my predicament. No sound. Not here. I stared up at the dark, cloudy skies, desperately anticipating my rescue. Was it the army? Had they finally decided to send help? Was it already too late? As the sound got louder, so did the sound of the moaning seem to get louder. Fuck, they must be attracted to the sound. Suddenly, 4 large gray transport helicopters appeared from the west, over the mountains. Well, that ain't the army, I muttered. They swept over the buildings, over where I stood, and headed towards the city center. I didn't even have time to wave at them before they were gone. Who the hell was that?